You hear that? That's the sound of a dream vacation becoming a living nightmare. Do not click away. What you are about to hear is a true story that will curdle your blood and make you rethink ever dipping your toes in the ocean again. We're going to a place people call paradise, but beneath the sparkling blue surface, a stone-cold killer was waiting. The ending of this story? It's something no one saw coming. So buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into the abyss. The Great Barrier Reef. Just the name conjures images of paradise, right? It's a bucket list destination, the world's largest living organism, a sprawling underwater metropolis of psychedelic color and vibrant life. For millions, it's the ultimate escape. For two British tourists, Daniel Smith and Alistair Rutter, it was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime. Two guys in their 20s, full of life, taking a break from their jobs back in England to explore the wonders of Down Under. They'd saved up, planned for months, and finally they were here, aboard a chartered yacht named the Wanderer, sailing through the postcard-perfect Whitsunday Islands. The day was flawless, October 29th. The Australian sun was a warm blanket on their skin, the sky a perfect cloudless blue. The turquoise water was so clear you could see the intricate coral gardens dozens of feet below. It was intoxicating. The group on the boat was a mix of international tourists, all buzzing with the same excitement. The plan was to snorkel in a secluded, pristine area known as Hook Passage, a channel famous for its sea turtles and massive schools of parrotfish. The crew gave the standard safety briefing. Watch out for the coral, don't touch the wildlife, and have an amazing time. Someone jokingly asked about sharks. The tour guide, a tanned, laid-back Aussie, chuckled. "You're more likely to get hit by a coconut on the beach, mate," he said with a wave of his hand. "We might see some little reef sharks, but they're more scared of you than you are them." That casual reassurance hung in the air, a fatal piece of foreshadowing nobody recognized. Daniel and Alistair were among the first in the water. The moment their masks broke the surface, they were transported to another world. It was everything they had imagined, and more. Electric blue damselfish darted around them. A majestic sea turtle glided effortlessly below, and the sheer scale of the coral formations was breathtaking. They were laughing through their snorkels, pointing out different fish to each other, completely lost in the magic of the moment. They were in paradise, and they felt invincible. This is the critical moment in so many of these stories, the moment where everything is perfect, where the victims feel completely safe, wrapped in the beauty of nature. But nature is never truly safe. It is raw, untamed, and operates by one simple rule: survival of the fittest. And in the ocean, humans are not at the top of the food chain. They had been in the water for about 20 minutes, maybe 100 yards from the boat. Daniel was trying to get a closer look at a giant clam when he felt it. A sudden, violent slam from his right side. It wasn't a bite. It was pure concussive force, like being hit by a car. The impact knocked the air out of his lungs and sent him spinning through the water. For a split second, there was just confusion. Did another snorkeler run into him? Did he hit a piece of coral? Then he saw the shape. A gray, hulking shadow, impossibly large, moving with a terrifying, fluid power. It was a shark, and it was big, way bigger than a little reef shark. Before his brain could even process the fear, the second hit came. This time, there was no mistaking it. It was a bite. A cataclysmic, crushing pressure enveloped his right leg. He felt a series of sharp, searing jolts as rows of serrated teeth sawed through his flesh, his muscle, and then grated against bone. The pain was instantaneous and absolute. It was a white-hot, blinding agony that consumed his entire being. He opened his mouth to scream, but only a gurgle of salt water and bubbles came out. His snorkel was ripped from his mouth. Panic set in, a primal animal terror that overrode every rational thought. He instinctively thrashed, punching and kicking at the massive sandpaper-rough body of the predator. Alistair was just a few feet away. He heard the muffled sound of the impact and turned to see his friend in a violent struggle. At first, he couldn't comprehend what was happening. Then he saw the fin, and the tail, and the sheer, terrifying bulk of the shark. And then he saw the color.
a cloud of crimson billowing out from Daniel's body, staining the perfect turquoise water a sickening murky red. The metallic tang of blood filled the water around them. In that moment, Alistair was faced with a choice that no person should ever have to make: flee to save himself, or swim toward the nightmare to save his friend. Without a second thought, he chose his friend. Fueled by pure adrenaline, Alistair swam directly at the massive shark, screaming underwater, punching its head and gills. It was a ridiculously brave, almost suicidal act, but it worked. The shark, likely startled by the unexpected aggression from a second target, released its grip on Daniel's leg for a moment. It was the only chance they would get. Alistair grabbed Daniel's arm and started pulling him toward the surface, toward the boat, screaming for help. "Shark! Shark attack! Help!" The screams sliced through the idyllic atmosphere on the boat. The laughing and casual chatter stopped dead. Heads turned. At first there was confusion, then a wave of collective horror as they saw the two men thrashing in the water and the slick of red spreading around them. The crew, who moments before had been joking about coconuts, snapped into emergency mode. A small inflatable rescue boat was scrambled into the water. Every second felt like an eternity. Below the surface, the shark wasn't done. It circled back, its dark, emotionless eye fixed on the struggling pair. It lunged again, this time biting Daniel's left leg, shaking him like a rag doll. The water churned into a bloody foam. Alistair held on, refusing to let go, screaming, kicking, doing anything to fight off the relentless predator. He could feel the power of the animal, the raw, unstoppable force of a creature perfectly designed to kill. Finally, the rescue boat reached them. Two crew members leaned over, their faces pale with shock, and hauled the two men out of the water. The scene in the small boat was one of carnage. Daniel was conscious, but barely. His body was a mess of horrific lacerations. His right foot was gone, completely severed at the ankle. His left leg was mangled, torn to the bone from his calf to his thigh. He was losing a catastrophic amount of blood. The crew immediately applied tourniquets, using belts and towels, anything they could find to staunch the bleeding. Alistair, miraculously unharmed but covered in his friend's blood, helped desperately, his hands shaking, his mind reeling from the horror he had just witnessed. The race against time had begun. They sped back to the main yacht, where a frantic call for an emergency helicopter had already been made. They got Daniel onto the deck, and the other tourists, now huddled together in shock, could only watch in horrified silence. Two passengers who happened to be a paramedic and a doctor rushed forward to help. They knew how dire the situation was. A bite like this from what they now suspected was a massive tiger or bull shark meant severed arteries. Daniel was bleeding out, and fast. They packed the wounds, elevated what was left of his legs, and tried to keep him conscious, talking to him, telling him to hold on, that help was coming. It took the rescue helicopter 20 agonizing minutes to arrive. For the people on that boat, it felt like a lifetime. They watched Daniel's face grow paler, his breathing more shallow. When the helicopter finally appeared, a tiny speck in the vast blue sky, it was a symbol of hope in a sea of despair. A medic was winched down onto the deck of the moving yacht, an incredibly difficult and dangerous maneuver. He took one look at Daniel's injuries and knew there wasn't a second to lose. They secured Daniel into a stretcher, and he was hoisted up into the belly of the helicopter, disappearing into the sky, leaving a traumatized and blood-soaked boat behind. Alistair could only watch, helpless, as his friend was flown away, not knowing if he would ever see him alive again. Daniel was flown to Mackay Base Hospital in critical condition. He had lost a terrifying amount of blood. The surgeons who worked on him for hours later described his injuries as something out of a horror movie. They fought to save his life, and against all odds, they did. But the cost was immense. They were forced to amputate his right leg below the knee. His left leg required extensive reconstruction, with massive skin and muscle grafts. His life, in the space of a few brutal minutes, had been changed forever. The young active tourist who had jumped into the water with such excitement would now face a lifetime of recovery and rehabilitation.
The aftermath sent shockwaves through the Australian tourism industry. The story was everywhere. Hook Passage was closed to swimming. An investigation was launched. Experts confirmed that the bite patterns were consistent with a large tiger shark. The debate raged. Should the shark be called? Was it a rogue shark? Or was this simply a tragic, unavoidable accident? A case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time in a wild animal's territory? The incident was a brutal reminder that when we enter the ocean, we are not visiting a theme park. We are visitors in a vast, untamed wilderness, and we must accept the risks that come with it. For Daniel Smith, the road ahead was long and painful, but his spirit and the unbelievable bravery of his friend Alistair Rutter became the focus of the story. Alistair was hailed as a hero, a man who stared death in the face and chose to fight for his friend. Without his instant, selfless action, Daniel would not have survived. It's a testament to the power of human courage in the face of nature's most terrifying fury. This wasn't just a story about a shark. It was a story about survival and the unbreakable bond of friendship. They went to paradise looking for an adventure, and they found themselves in a fight for their lives, a fight that one of them will carry the scars of forever. If this story made your heart pound, do me a favor and absolutely destroy that like button. Seriously, punch it like it's a shark. And if you want more insane true stories of survival, where animals show their wild side, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. You don't want to miss what's coming next, trust me. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in Alistair's position? Until next time, stay safe and maybe stick to the swimming pool.